Let's go for the actual store. Europa natural
Nemo, you're muted. Bonjour.
Greetings, humanity, and welcome to our very obviously live first live edition of Europa Natural Law, a new roundtable transmission dedicated to healing the madness, badness, and sadness plaguing our beautiful, bountiful world. Through regaining our sanity, reclaiming our inborn sovereignty, and honoring our inherent responsibility, we can improve reality. I'm your host, Nemo Jones, reporting for Beauty, and to my right, we have
Vuk.
Hi.
Oh, it gets confusing. Let's do it with this view. We'll just go around.
All right, KRIS Nelson, evolveconsciousness.org from Canada.
THEO, netulaw.com.
Yvonne from Norfolk.
David from Ireland.
Hi, I'm Oscar from Denmark.
Derek Paolicelli, hailing from France via California, and then some.
And hi, I'm Wukan Kempfer from alphavuk.net and from Germany.
Great, so welcome everyone. As this is David's first show, would you like to give a little introduction of what brought you to this point where you want to get on a live transmission and talk about natural law, David?
Yeah, I'll try to be as brief as I can. So I have been interested in anarchism for almost 20 years, or maybe actually a little over 20 years now. And I've been asking myself for a long time whether at the end of the day I would be an advocate of limited government or outright actual anarchism or voluntarism. And I guess I had sort of pushed that question aside for a long time. But then a few years ago, most of us are keenly aware of what happened in 2020, which kind of prompted a lot of people to maybe reevaluate their outlook on these sort of issues. And over the last years, that sort of thing has basically led me to looking into natural law. And about a year and a half ago, I came across a video series by Jana Espirito Santo, I think is how you pronounce her name, on public health and eugenics. And she in turn reminded me of Mark Passio's work, which I'd come across years ago, but I'd never really looked into. So so finally a few months ago, I started kind of looking at the question of natural law as an alternative to positive law property, actually looking at it closely. So that's more or less how I became interested in natural law in brief. So that's where I'm coming from.
Great, thank you, and welcome. Right, so the subject that we're going to be talking about today is care, the generative principle. And I could start by just talking a little bit about it myself, because as we do each week, we think carefully about the subject that we're going to talk about. I invite people to write about it on the forum that we have on Telegram, which you are welcome to join. And I'll just read maybe a little bit, or maybe we'll see. I'll read a bit of what I read wrote this week in relation to this question. So care, the generative principle, as I understand it, is the heart of creation itself, and it manifests through a positive and a negative aspect. So it's really brought to bear by human beings on through desire. It's through longing, through what you actually want, through what you're focused on, through what you spend your time and attention on. These are the things that actually bring things into manifestation. And really, it's when your focus is determined and resolved and steadfast, that's when you can actually get really manifest the results that you want. So we have a positive aspect of that has the potential to manifest through care, and then we have a negative aspect, which is also using exactly the same thing. It's determination, resolve, and consistency. These are the things that actually get results. And obviously the problem that we have in the world at the moment is that positivity is a bit like this. It's kind of all over the place. Oh, I'm positive about this, so I feel good about that. And everyone's kind of got different ideas. Whereas the negative sort of, you could say, use of this principle is very, very clear, very focused. And yeah, so that's my little bit to kind of kick off. So if anyone wants to jump in, go for it.
I just
So
want
what
to, no, go for it. Who's saying what now? Well, real quick, because just to play off of what Nemo was talking about, what really clicked in my head is we had a chat with the One Great Work Warriors and kind of like the art of the craft. Brandon Spencer was talking about, and a lot of people have as well. It's just think about the white magician and the dark magician. Black magician has nothing to do with race, color, whatever. It's just think of it in terms of allegory, if you will, metaphor. And obviously the light side is the positive side and the dark side is the negative side. These two, we could say, polar opposites almost, if you will. Think of a lot of polarity in what's in the middle as well. A bunch of gray magicians that don't know what's going on. The generative principle is still in operation, just like natural law and law of attraction and all these things are always in operation 24/7. Yet they're very oblivious to these things, especially at that, point of just, ignorant, oblivious, apathetic, and whatever. But, towards, varying degrees towards, those, really heightened adept mastery of natural law, whether it be on the negative sense or the positive sense. That is where people can really use and wield their magic at, high potential. And it's using that heart-based intelligence, that electromagnetic life force energy that's really manifesting things, with that true care. And people on the negative side, they still have that, but it's, not in the 100% pure sense, yet it's still quite effective, as we see in the world today, unfortunately, right? So yeah, but we're sticking to the positive side of things, I believe, today. So that's all I got to say for now.
Yeah, I mean, can you hear me, by the way? Am I coming clear? Yeah, so I feel like it can also be seen like as passion. So I'm sure people who are on the dark side have a lot of passion for what they do. But true care, I think passion is part of it, but it's also about creation. So on the dark side, they love to destroy things and to invert things and all that. And by the way, Derek, I think the screens need to be expanded for each speaker. Just yeah, okay. So you need a passion. Care encompasses passion, but to have the true care, it's also about creation, not about destruction. So that's also why it's called the generative principle, because actually the whole universe was created because of, you could say something like that, true care. It's like it's almost like another natural law, like one of those natural laws I talked about when I explained natural law in one of the first episodes. So I think Derek mentioned there's also a law of reciprocity, so like the equal energy exchange. So that's another natural law that is occulted, that is not spoken about, not even part of the Hermetic laws. But when it comes to true care, there's many things to talk about, I think. Well, you already talked about in the previous episode. I think you did a great job. I couldn't join because I had some internet issues. But yeah, I think that's it for now. I'll jump on later. I want to know what you guys want to say. So if anyone wants to join.
Yeah, I'll jump in. When I knew we was going to be speaking about this, the first thing that came to my mind was the experiment that's been done millions of times, but it was first done, let me just get the, excuse me, the name correct, Dr. Masaru Emoto, when he did the water experiment. So various people, even IKEA, have gone on and done it, and loads of students have done it. When you talk to a plant, you can either give it a negative, like swear at it, or you can give it positive affirmations. And the difference in the plants, one would be full of life, generative, and then the other one would be degenerative. It would wilt, and it would, yeah, some of them even died. So it's all about, the generative principle is all about what we're thinking, and then putting that into action has an effect. So everything we do in life is manifesting in what we've got. So the lack of this, what they call the lost principle, is probably why we've got so much chaos in the world, because people are not consciously aware that they are having an effect with this energy. This, you know, I spoke about it, I think it was in the first episode that we did, about what was in between when a male and female come together. What's in between when you're producing new life, a baby? It's that hidden energy, it's that power. And yeah, that to me describes the generative principle the best way I can anyway. It's an energy that we all have, but some people, to be fair, are not even using it. They're stagnated. They're not moving forward, and yeah, that can cause all sorts of feelings of depression, low self-esteem, because they're not using that generative energy, because they don't know it's there. And yeah, hence why it's very important that as many of us as possible are teaching this, so people can yeah, start to gain their power back and be responsible for what they're creating in the world. Because as Nemo said at the beginning, the dark occultists, they very much know about it, and they're very focused, and what they're creating is exactly what's manifested on our planet. And we have to come back 50 million times as hard and work together to, yeah, have a, I don't like using the word common goal because that's too common purpose in a way, but you know where I'm coming from. We have to have that same focus, like what do we want to create? Yeah. We can't just be victims to what they're creating anymore. It's done.
Have passion for what we want to create, right? Like,
yes,
they have passion for what they want to destroy or invert or subvert and all that. We need to have passion for resisting that and creating the world that we want to create.
Yeah, which can be very difficult, can't it, THEO? Because they've been getting their own way for eons and eons and eons and eons, and sometimes it can seem like an uphill struggle. But we have to
I also
push on.
think, you know, because it's so much about imagination. the whole thing, really. It's about, well, what can you imagine that's going to be different? And I kind of think that really what humane beings want is just so simple, and it's so kind of like basic and just understood, that we tend to kind of maybe overthink things, and we're like, oh, we have to like have this plan or that plan or this strategy or whatever, and in a way the thing to focus on is like the thing that's most dear to our hearts, which I mean is really so straightforward. It's just living in harmony with the land, living in peace. It's like, but instead our kind of our mind is filled with like dystopias or like an idyllic world. I mean, I was talking about this the other day with my son, an idyllic world without people. We're sort of almost conditioned to only see that nature is beautiful without people in it. Like people living in harmony with nature is is kind of almost not allowed it's either hellscapes, dystopic hellscapes, or pristine nature. That's the kind of way, those are the things that are put into our minds to imagine. And the sort of beautiful middle ground of those two things, of us actually just living and being humane together, is kind of almost not allowed in the narrative, in the culture.
Mm-hmm.
It has been trained out of us, I think, in my humble opinion. It has been trained out of us to, like, telepathy, for example, the experiment, Yvonne, you talked about with the plants, for example. They have put sensors on a plant, and they could like feel their trembling, their slight tremblings, and when the owner of the plant just thought about, now I'm gonna go over and burn the plant, the plant screams in fear, quote unquote screams in fear. So, but when the owner goes to the plant and say, hey, my dear, here's some more food for you, and look how you've grown, and positive stuff, the plants reacts well to that, as you stated. And Masaru Emoto's work on water is very, very fundamental, and it changed my life, definitely. I was very much a metalhead, and when I saw what the music does to water, it's the same effect like the word war or like hatred, and that made me rethink my musical choices, and my habits on what I do listen to every day. And I think it's very, very important to understand the real basics of true care, to get the inner trinity aligned. And I think the fear is everywhere. The fear factor pumped into the population is visible everywhere. But it is very, very important to know what real love is, to expand, to be in a quiet state, to like be happy, quote unquote. Not happy is not the right word, but to be not in self-defense mode. So
Be grateful
yeah, right. And then
for
that's
what is good, at least. Not be grateful for being enslaved. But
yeah, it's a lot of things. Alone, being humble for life, thanking the creator for every new day you have, and that's I think it's an important part that has been lost or forgotten by many of us. And we are trained to see the dark side and the ugly sides of our world, what we do to water, for example, what we do to nature and plants. But we could be and can be, some of us are, very good influences on other beings. And I think that's very important to focus on, to really push or like propagate the true loving care, to lose the fear and to expand not only your consciousness but also your like circle of friends and interests and knowledge and everything. That's from my part.
Absolutely. Can I just add, adding on to that book, considering that we're made up of so much water.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You
for
know?
sure. 80%. So maybe I'll say one more thing that I've written on the chat. So if you guys are watching, you can join the chat. We have an open chat, everyone can join. And I've written something about this topic that we discussed before starting this live stream. I said that I think that caring is creating, because to create it requires care, and care requires creativity. So, it's equal, in both ways how you look at it. And so if you're not creating, you're doing nothing, which is degenerating. You're doing the opposite, or you're actually doing the opposite of creating, which is destroying. If you have dark care, maybe you like destroying, right? You care about things being destroyed or being inverted, just like the dark occultists like to do. Or you have fake care, so you think you care about something that is important, but actually it's probably not very important. Maybe it's just some materialistic thing you're into or some celebrity. So you think you care about them, but it's not a true form of care, because it doesn't lead to any new things being created by you or by anyone else. It's just literally it's wasted care. So true care leads to creation. Yeah. So again, like creation itself is like a force of true care. It's this generative. It's generation. Yeah. So it's a very foundational part of our reality as well.
Chris or David, would you like to come in? Joe and Oscar.
One thing that just occurred to me is that maybe one of the outcomes of people ignoring their ability to co-create their shared experience, to maybe use more highbrow language, is the increasing indulgence. Indulgence is the wrong term, but the increasing retreat into escapism, like just incessant streaming of TV series and that kind of thing, that maybe in a sense is a symptom of people's sense of complete lack of control over their own lives and inability to change anything or create anything or generate any change in the world. And in one sense, like there's nothing wrong with it, because I mean, humanity has always had a need for storytelling, and in one sense, this entertainment is, fulfills that need. But in another sense, I mean, it's being abused, and another related issue is the maybe a little bit more sinister trend towards, I can't think of the term for it now, but these AI virtual realities. I mean, again, I don't necessarily imply that there's something intrinsically wrong with that, but if it's being used purely as an escape from the physical world, because we have just given up any hope of actually having any control over our circumstances and that kind of thing, then that's an indication that something has gone wrong. So maybe that's just a roundabout way of trying to highlight how important this idea of getting in touch with this idea of a generative principle. Yeah, just some random thoughts.
All right, I guess I can go next. Yeah, so topic is the generative principle, otherwise known as KRIS. So the reason it's the generative principle is because as a generative force within us, it's generating the quality of our experience. Because you can have, as everyone, a lot of people have mentioned so far, you care about what you're going to do. You have a passion for doing something. So you don't need to be passionate about something, but everything is motivated by desire or wants or preferences. And that's what we put our time into. We spend time and pay attention. That's why they're referred to as the quote, spiritual currencies. So that's where we're investing our time. It's an investment. See all these things related to a currency. And when you care about things, well, when we're talking about the higher form of the generative principle and that force within us, it's whether we're aligning with truth in general and most importantly, moral truth. And so that's where the term true care comes from. So it's aligning with the truth. It's a true care instead of a false care. And a false care would be a dark care, where instead of aligning with truth, you're aligning with falsity. And more specifically, in contradistinction with moral truth, well, it would be moral falsity, which equates to immorality. So you're going to align more with immorality and what drives you. And that's what the dark occultists, the manipulators, the social engineers, well, they're not respecting the natural rights of others. So they are motivated by machinations to manipulate and deceive and control and enslave. So that's a dark care within them that is driving their behavior. Sorry, I got a fly flying around everywhere. And yeah, so the dark care is what's motivating them to do their behaviors, because from your care, you can have knowledge, but what are you using the knowledge towards? What are you understanding with that knowledge? And then what are you going to apply your will in creating to the world? Another thing would be, so we have dark care and true care, but you can have a lack of either, and that's where you have no care. You don't care. And that's where a lot of people are at. They have care for things, but they're not caring about truth, and they're not necessarily caring about the evil. They're not caring to align themselves towards the evil, but they're not caring about the good. They're just going through life, and they're just letting the creations of either be. So the people who are creating within true care, well, they're letting them be. People are creating within dark care, well, they're letting them be. So whatever the majority is, I call it the principle of quantity. Whatever the biggest quantity is what will emerge as the condition in our lives. So when there's more people who have the ability to manipulate and influence others and get them to behave in the ways that they want those other people to behave, well, these people who don't care, they end up falling into that automated, programmed, conditioned, robotic way of living, of just going with whatever the status quo is and perpetuating it into the future. So they end up caught up into the pathway of dark care, and that's where you have the symbolism of the checkerboard floor in Freemasonry, of being ignorant of the definitive objective difference between what is right or wrong behavior, and then you end up creating wrong behavior because you don't know the difference. So you can't choose what you don't know the difference is. So you're not even aware that what you're engaging in as a behavior is actually right or wrong. So that means you're going to be engaging in wrongs without even knowing it. And it's also referred to as the lost principle because the lost principle, because people, well, they don't care, right? A lot of people just don't care about a lot of things. They don't care about what's going on in the world. So when they don't care about what's going on in the world, then you're not going to be able to change what's going on in the world because you don't even care about it. So you can't even use that force within you to align your behaviors in order to move in that direction of either creating more, caring to create more of it in a conscious capacity, or consciously going against it and trying to create something different. And when we don't care enough to create things, that can be from fear, like explicit fear, or the force of fear, which will manifest as apathy. So apathy is just not caring, and that's like the middle point between a dark care and a true care. in the middle is just you don't care. And that can lead to ignorance, so you don't learn about things such as moral truth, and you don't understand things, so then you're in confusion about how the world is operating, why are things happening, why are things this way. And you can also end up in a position of cowardice and laziness, so you haven't developed enough courage and willpower to act obviously in alignment with moral truth. And that's where the dark care component is. These people are activated in their dark care to actualize things, so they use knowledge and understanding, so they're not ignorant and confused, and they apply that as they have the courage to enact their will in order to create changes in the world in alignment with how they want things to be. So they don't have the courage, they don't have the cowardice and the laziness. And so that's why most people need the care, because it'll break that cowardice and laziness and help them develop the courage and the will to act. And we have the I think it's in Revelations, the part where the mark of the beast is the mark. They have the mark. Where's the mark? It's on their forehead and on their hand. So what does that represent? Well, your hand is your actions, and your forehead would be your thoughts. So your thoughts is where you're going to, from your perceptions, bring in knowledge into your inner reality, your consciousness, and your actions is where you activate your will to act. And the emotions are what's lacking. So they have the mark on their hand and on their forehead, but that's 2 of 3. So that's where if you do 2 divided by 3, you get 0.6 repeats, so 666, and that's what's referred to as the mark of the beast, where you have a form of activated thinking and knowledge and activated action and will, but you lack the care part. And so it's either inactive, as for most people, in terms of being activated towards the true or good or dark or evil side. And so you end up pretty much going in the pathway of the dark care, because you're on that checkerboard floor, not knowing whether you're not able to choose between creating good or creating evil, because you're ignorant of the difference between right and wrong. And I guess I'll leave it there.
Thanks a lot there. Thanks, Chris.
Very good. Yeah.
Hallelujah.
Oh, Mike.
No, that was very clear. I appreciate that, Chris. That was that was really So I think I'll try to emphasize a bit this this which has been said about that it's about what we create and what we use to create with. And this, first of all, like that requires one even has an awareness of one's own creativity, of one's own of how that the generative principle works through one, that we are creative beings, and that that first of all requires some care. You need to care about finding out something about yourself, about finding out who you are, and then after you decide that you want to learn more about, and you actually recognize that aspect of yourself. It doesn't have to be like this huge epiphany. It can be something that your parents have helped you understand from an early age on. If not, it's if for some people it can even be like a fear of, like a scary thing to kind of admit that they are creators. Then it does require exploring that part of oneself, which I imagine can be very very challenging, but possible. So it is very much about learning about ourselves, having that self-knowledge, knowing that we are creative beings, that we are and you can really see that contrast between the culture we have today, where we're very and even the way parenting is often done today, where kids are, they're encouraged to be more consumers than creators in many ways. They're given awesome technology but they're not really taught how to use this awesome technology. It's more like be passive and let the state program you, or let Hollywood program you, or have this fucking propaganda indoctrinated into
Life is just a movie, man. You don't know.
Exactly. That you point at something very, very important there. This whole idea that life is just an experience, and that we have a
Everyone
say
is just a
in
spectator.
what happens. Is this just an experience that, like, are we just on a ride, or do we have a say in what happens here? And I think what is often misunderstood is and it does require some, like, it's not something that I've always understood. Like, I needed help to understand this, but it's that thing about that the things I care about to create, the things that I do with my hands and that I actually go out in the world and do, well, those are just my efforts, and that doesn't mean that they're unimportant. But the truth is that there's no live stream, for example, just me doing it. Like, we're combining our efforts, where there's this collaboration, and that's a micro aspect of the, like, it's on a smaller scale. But if you look at a global scale, well, we're 8 billion people who have a say in what's going to happen, and we all have. Sorry.
Yeah, we're 8 billion people doing nothing, spectating, thinking it's a movie.
Well, it is interesting because a lot of people would agree on what you said early on, Nemo, that we want to live in harmony with nature. We want to have peace, and we say we want these things, but if that's not the condition that has been manifested, well, then you're right, Theo. We're not doing anything to create that condition. And why is that? Why do we not? Well, the answer is we do not know. We do not know how to create that condition. Because if we knew, we would create it. And maybe a few individuals or a small minority do. But I mean, that's very optimistic. I mean, the reality is that people don't actually know how to create what they say they want. And do they even know that they are creators? Because a lot of people are just begging others to do it for them in form of protests or in form of voting, right? So yeah, I mean, there's this thing about that we are creators, and that in the lower scale, we are, like, our lives are to a large degree our own creation, even though that for example, what you said about earlier, Chris, that if you have no care, then you're a target for the people who have dark care that can just manipulate you into being their puppet. Well, that's me right there that you're describing. Maybe not right now. I feel I've developed a stronger intellectual self-defense, and I'm more able to recognize poison worldviews. But I was deep in the Satanism, and I'm still developing that true care, developing that willingness to live in alignment with natural law. And what I'm trying to say is I did not have the care. I had no care, which is something I think is not natural. I think it is natural to care about. Like, you have an average 4-year-old, if they're not, like, given way too much like poison in forms of candy or whatever, or in screens, they'll ask you around 400-500 questions a day. They care about knowing what's happening. Like, who am I? What is this realm that I live in? So yeah, I'm ranting, but I'm saying the care needs to be mirrored. And yeah, thanks everybody who put the care into showing up and doing this live stream today, and to all the people who cared enough to check out what it is about.
Thanks, Oscar. I just wanted to jump in. on that because the word Satanism might make some people go, "What the hell? He was a Satanist." And I just want to clarify. Obviously, we've come, everyone here is kind of like we all share an understanding. It's a kind of unspoken thing. Like it's kind of a weird background in a way that we have. But anyway, the point is, part of that is that we understand something different from what most people would understand from the word Satanism, which is it's not to do with worship of a deity called Satan. It's to do with basically hedonism. Yeah, I suppose is one way of putting it. Yeah, it's
psychopathy.
Psychopathy. Yeah, it's to do with this worldview, which is kind of very different to true care. But it is a kind of care. It's a sort of self-care, self at the expense of the other care, that kind of care. And I just wanted to sort of say, because people were talking about, I think earlier about this, or it's come up a few times talking about dark care, that I think it's important to understand that this dark care, this kind of, I don't think it's coming from a conscious place of destruction. Like there is that aspect of kind of spite and aggression and domination and control, but what is I think is a sort of something that I'm almost coming to terms with, really understanding and contemplating this deeply, is that is coming from a place of weakness and fear. That's at the heart of it, and so it's ultimately a kind of self-loathing right in the heart of that. I think that drives that. And self-loathing is, in essence, the ultimate act of self-loathing would be suicide. And so it is, in essence, a suicidal or a self-destructive. It is a destructive. It isn't really a creative process, but it has this kind of aspect of creativity to it, in that it looks like it's trying to build something, but at its heart, it's suicidal, as an impulse.
And that's exactly what I meant. I meant this suicidal worldview. That's if I'm the one that used that word, that's literally what I meant. That I was so deep in this.
Oh, is he frozen?
Yeah, but it's suicidal to what? It's suicidal to the soul, right? That's why they say to all the. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, you got frozen. Sorry, Oscar. I had to jump in. Oh, you want to continue? Me?
Okay, yeah. I mean, I just wanted to clarify that that's what I meant. That I meant that kind of the worldview that I had was very self-loathing and poison, and I think the reason I might have used that word satanic is because I think there is a satanic influence in culture. There is the repetition of these worldviews, of these beliefs, and I accepted those beliefs. I took them into me, and that's not to play the victim. I chose to accept those.
It's very popular. It's the most popular thing to do, to basically. Also, the simplest way to describe Satanism to the general populace is it's egoism. It's putting the ego as God. You think your ego is the God of all creation, and serving your ego is your only mission in life. So that's where I started to say it's suicidal to your soul, because your soul has nothing to do with your ego. Your ego is just here to serve like as armor in the world, in society, you could say. That's one way to look at ego. So
Cool.
yeah, to identify with your armor as you, I think it's pretty silly, right? But it seems very popular these days. So you want to dress your armor with all kinds of blings and fancy things from like I don't know what, and you want to admire all the celebrities that are just armors. Yeah, they're not showing their true selves. Their soul is so-called dead, right? I don't think the soul can really die. I think our souls are infinite, but you can suppress your soul so much that it's basically gone until you actually really physically die. I mean, but we are about being our true selves, right? We talked about before that true care requires you being in your true self to just, in a way, you also need to not care, right? You need to not care that people, what they will think about you, because most people really care too much what they will think about me, and then they become identify with their armors, right? They put a wall against the world. So we are trying to encourage people to know that it's okay to make mistakes, to be silly sometimes. I don't know, to have fun, to laugh. It's all good. I mean, life is just a temporary moment in space, I like to say. So enjoy it while you're still here, and don't give a fuck about what they think about you, but do give a fuck about your soul and being you, because you only have you, is what I know, ultimately.
Word, yeah. I guess I'll jump in real quick. I only had a little brief little thing in the beginning, not like it matters, but once you really get to know yourself, then you get that proper true love for yourself, and that really goes kind of hand in hand with that care for self. And I'm sure people have heard it before, but guess what? If you haven't heard it before, if you don't have that within yourself, how can you give it to someone else? So how can you really give a fuck about this planet, this world that we're living in, the environment you're around, the community, even the family that you're brought up in, whatever the fuck? How do you have, love and gratitude, and how are you able to express that to everything in creation? If you really want to break it down to that level, right? But yeah, it's got to come from the heart, from the starts, in a sense, right? And yeah, like I mentioned, it's really, yeah, the solar plexus, it's been described, it identifies with courage and that will force, but I also feel like it's really more, it's activated even at a much more intense level as all the lower chakras. When that heart chakra is really open and properly rotating, because chakra just means wheel, it's just these wheels of energy, but think of it more in 3 or even 4D terms. We have this liquid crystal oscillating life force energy pumping through us all the time. How are you in tune with that? How are you using that to wield your will to do things in life that just need to be done? There's situations that everyone has, other countries, and all these things where we come up across all types of adversity, or things that need to be solved, and tasks that need to be done, things that need to be cleaned up, food to cook and whatever, right? Like just everything, just being on top of stuff. And I feel like once you like cross a certain threshold where it's just moving at such a optimum level, it's almost on autopilot, you have so much more energy to exert almost effortlessly into these things, so you have more proper time to do other stuff and just keep going, and not have to worry about, oh, I need I'm worried about my protein levels and whatever the fuck. Once you get to higher spiritual levels, certain things kind of you wean off, sometimes naturally, sometimes in a lot of cases people need to have a discipline towards certain things. Like for me, I've fasted upwards to almost like 200 days out of my life, and just going through these self-initiated processes helped out a bunch, and you get to know yourself much more, and you care about yourself on all these different levels, and that just really extends and is a reflection, right? The mirror reflection that people like to say in the new age community, like the universe is just a reflection. Well, how much are you amplified and in tune with the universe to have a proper reflection, so that it's like all good vibes? It ain't going to be like that in a collective conscious mixed with unconsciousness of these 8 billion people, that hey, everyone, unfortunately, in this fallen time matrix, we're bound to break natural laws, unfortunately. But the mission in this incarnation is at least to be aligned as much as possible and cause the least amount of harm and be on the side of good. And imagine what the history books are going to be saying about our generation. I mentioned this in the last one. I think as far as us being you know, the first generation that lived through the invention of the ethers being manifested through the ethernets via the internet, right? And so you see, how are people expressing themselves, and you know, what are people devoting their time and effort and energy towards? What are we doing right now? We're just trying to teach and, you know, evoke the alignment towards these sacred principles. And this is the common ground that, you know, Leslie Powers and I speak about in regards to dissolving the divides that are conquering the planet, country in, country out, throughout the communities and families and all this stuff. But there's so much more to all this fucking bullshit. And we can, you know, tap into it right fucking here, first and fucking foremost. Take it to the law correspondence of the universe being inside you. Are you versing well with the you and I verse, right? So that's all I'll say for now.
Yeah,
I'll save
yeah,
a little
and
left for the last time.
great, Derek. And just want to say, if it sounds like really difficult or serious or like almost like scary, maybe for some people, like what we're talking about, like, you know, getting to the true care, to the true self, like, sound like, oh, that sounds really serious, or like, oh, I'm really scared, or like, it's like, sure, I'm sure it was like that for all of us. Definitely, it was for me. It was very difficult and scary, and it was a whole process. It's like a hero's journey to really be on that path of truth. And but the thing is once you get over that hump, right, you have to climb that hill. But once you're on the hill, the view is incredible. And once what you find is actually your life is becoming very synchronistic, or like Derek likes to say, very synchronicious. So like things flow really easily. You meet the right people at the right time. The things happen just when they should happen, just when you would love them to happen. Maybe if you had some issues in your life, whether it's like you know, physical, spiritual, mental, maybe you'll start to find that they're starting to ease up. You start to have, you know, things flow again easily. Things just, you really start to feel like you're tuning into something great. You're in flow, like, you know, like the waves of the ocean, like when you're on the shore and it's a beautiful sunny day. It can really feel like that many days when you're doing the great work. So if you're in the dark, if you're in a bad place in life, this is the path for you, for sure.
I think true care comes as well from heart activation, like the Heart Mouth Institute and Heart Coherence Science. I want to just mention shortly here, but that's a great resource for research. And we have to start with ourselves first. I think that what was stated before with Carl Gustav Jung and Michael Tessarion call it the self murder of the soul and the self murder of consciousness, for example, to better fit into society, to not be worried about, let's say, smaller things when you have to, for example, work at a weapons manufacturer or whatever. It's easier when you have killed your conscience and your heart to just do what's quote unquote needed to feed the self. But I think it's very important to listen to the very faint voice of your soul and your consciousness, and to follow their advice, because it is the life experience you get after you really activate your care, your self, your heart, for yourself, for example, first, and do yourself something good, and don't meaning you take care that you don't drink anything like poisonous or what's not healthy for you, or addictive stuff, and like sugar, soda, and so on. And you start really to develop self-care, to make yourself better and to really care, for example, what food you put in, what sounds do you listen to, which people surround you, and all that, let's say, jazz. And it's I think we can do better for the most people around here in Europe. We could do better if we would care more about ourselves. And I mean it in a deep sense, in a to harmonize with nature and with the all better, and less to our so-called quote unquote society, the money printing machine. And I think Jiddu Krishnamurti was it who said to it's no sign of healthiness to be well adapted to an extreme sick society. And I think he's perfectly spot on. That we have to choose if we want to be true to ourselves, true to the cause, true to the universe, or true to illusion, the matrix, money, etc. And I wish everyone the power and the wisdom to really find themselves and to expand on that.
The still small voice
Exactly.
will help you out there. Yeah. Thanks for.
But you know, like, fuck that, because perfection is impossible. So why even bother trying? You know, this is just a movie. It's just a game. It's just a hologram. It's just a simulation. There's no point. So just go have fun, enjoy your life, and don't worry about it. You know, none of it matters. So just whatever. We're just talking bullshit, and you can just ignore us and anybody else that says similar stuff to us. You know, it's that easy.
Yeah, and while you're doing that, your children are getting fucked about. So start caring. I found it
I'd like
quite.
to kind of,
Oh, sorry. Go.
I can wait. Okay, well, I'll just. I think I found it quite interesting that Mark Passio, in his presentation of natural law, the real law of attraction, he goes into the Hermetic principles, and then he also speaks of care as the eighth principle or the last principle. And I found it quite interesting whether or not I should see it as such, or if I should see the generative principle as being in reality just like an offshoot of the principle of mind, of mentalism, which is a metaphysical description of it's a description of reality of in a metaphysical way, which means like of seeing reality as not only the material, and the principle of mentalism basically describes that supposedly the whole universe is one mind, is one dream or one consciousness or one like huge imagination, and we're all in a way in that, like electrical neurons in that way, like we're all in that kind of
In God's mind.
Exactly. But I mean I'm still not really haven't refined my understanding of those Hermetic principles to a degree where I feel like I can speak clearly about them. I can see clearly now, but I do see that there might be a relationship like that might be the foundation for why the generative principle is in effect, which is what we're describing here today. The fact that our thoughts, the way our mind and emotions and our actions are driving the condition that we experience in our reality, and also how that generative principle, which is what Mark Passio describes in his presentation is the foundation for what we attract in a society, what we are manifesting collectively. And I mean, I think there's some very interesting. What the point I'm trying to make is, I find it very interesting this thing about what is it that is going through our heads. What are we imagining? What are we visualizing? What are we seeing? And also, I think it's a very good way to feel gratitude, which is such a high vibration. Is this one approach is to be like, well, how would I feel if I didn't have it? And then be like, oh shit, I do have it, and then feel that amazing emotion. But it's also seeing, it can also be about opportunities, possibilities. So you can feel happy about, or like you can feel grateful. I can feel grateful for things that I know are possibilities for me, that I can go out and do, or skills that I can develop, or relationships that I can build, and so on. And I think that approach, that using that expansion, that force of wanting to grow, wanting to accept the gift of that one has been given, and that one can also keep on giving, is that polarity that I want to choose to create with. I want to choose that. When I say polarity, I mean like I can either choose that force of growing, of expansion, of wanting to nourish my being so that I can give fruit and so on, or I can. I mean, this Italian word called crepare is coming to mind, which is mean like dying. You know, it's like I can just.
Oh, he's died.
No.
Can I jump in on what Oscar just said? Sorry?
Yes.
Do nothing.
Can I?
Yeah, go.
In and out. We're losing you a bit, Oscar. And we've passed the hour mark. I just wanted to mention that, so it'd be good to sort of wrap up shortly. But go Yvonne, or Yvonne, Oscar. I can't tell if you're frozen. No, you're just being still.
No, you should.
but,
You're good to go. Okay.
Yeah.
So do you want to get in, Yvonne? Yeah.
Oh, I can't hear you, Eva.
You're muted.
Sorry. Yeah, just jumping on the back of what Oscar was saying about the hermetic principle, all is mind. Just to add on that, I'm going to go to a bit of Chinese medicine. So first things first, things do get created in the mind, or it's your first thought, but you have to put it into action. So I'm going to take you through. So in Chinese medicine, you've got 5 elements. So you've got the water, which is that's your creative energy. And I'm just going to give you an example. So people could start thinking, I would like to create a song. That's your imagination. Or I want to create a picture, or I want to go and grow a carrot, whatever. And then it moves up to the next one, which is the wood, which is where you put your action in. And then the next generative process is fire. So if you have followed the stages of coming up with a creative idea, putting it into action, then you get a chance to go, yay, and start celebrating it. That's your fire energy. And then it goes to the next one, which is your earth. And then that's when where you physically manifested what you first thought of, and that's when you share it. Then you can sing that person the song or give them the picture. That's where the sharing element comes in. And then it moves on to the metal, which is the last thing, and that's resonance, where you complete the full cycle and you can sit back and go, I've achieved something.
You can hear someone sing the song.
Exactly.
Like, whoa, it catches on.
And then the cycle begins again. And that's the generative principle to me. It's some people get stuck. You can have someone that just gets stuck in the water element and they're a dreamer. oh, I'd love to sing a song. Oh, I'd love to do this. I'd love to do that. But they don't do fuck all about it. They just get stuck in that. Or then you get workaholics that go, yeah, I would love to do that. And they actually can't stop working and they get stuck in the wood element and they never get to experience the joy of sitting down at the end of the day and go, I've achieved something. Like there's all different. I'd like to go into that more, and I will create more about the Chinese philosophy and medicine, because it really does explain a lot of natural laws. But I'll do that in my own thing another time. I'll shut up now.
Looking forward to that, Yvonne. That sounds amazing. I would love to see your work on that, because that's new to me. I've been a bit curious about that.
All to the meridians and everything. So that's, yeah. I've got to work on my own at the minute. I've got a really bad earache. I'll sort it out though.
I love it. Beautiful, Yvonne. So if I may summarize a little bit, like what I understand so far, I think true care is really about being conscious of your true self, and also conscious of the foundational parts of reality that make up the universe, not just physically, so not just in terms of the matter and the gravity and all that, but obviously to acknowledge that there are also spiritual laws in effect that are in nature, that have everything to do with morality. So it is objective. So if I murder someone, even if I imagine that it's a good thing to murder someone for some reason, like what people do in the police or military, for instance, it doesn't mean that it will have a good effect like I imagine. Actually, it will have a negative effect on me if I murder someone. Like that is objective. So that's how morality is objective. So just like that, you could also see your soul as an objective part of reality, and your ego and all the things that are what we like to say in the matrix are subjective. So they have not really much to do with your soul at all. They are kind of here for entertainment, you could think of it. And so are you caught up in it? Are you caught up in the metrics, in the minutia, in the TV and the box, in the screen? Are you like that all the time? Or are you actually part of this whole beautiful thing, like Yvonne mentioned, this cyclical and expansive beauty of nature and creating, and you are part of it, whether you like it or not. You're here. If you're watching this, you're here. So like, why don't you be a good participant in this beautiful creation, and instead of just falling for that matrix, for that box, putting yourself inside a little box, the black box, maybe you could have a beautiful life that everyone will be inspired by. So be conscious of what you're imagining. Imagine beautiful things, and maybe they will come true.
Yeah,
put
come
the
and give us
action.
a hand. Come and give us a hand.
Yeah.
There's a job to be doing.
Right.
Any last thoughts? Quick ones?
Yeah, real quick. So, in conclusion, right? No, just kidding. I love saying that. What do y'all know about that Hyros Gamos? You know, the alchemical wedding. You know, the merging of the divine masculine, divine feminine, or sacred, if you will. Whether it be the two hemispheres within your mind, brain, or also just in essence, in practice, in principle, in allegory, if you will. How I see this as well, you know, I mentioned, you know, that electromagnetic force, you know, male, female, electromagnetic, right? We need harmony of those to really get that oscillation properly moving. You know, I mentioned the heart chakra and stuff like that. And, you know, to really get that crown properly lit, you need this pumping the proper energy up there. Otherwise, it ain't gonna be cracking. It's not happening really. And you know, that's what I kind of experienced. And like it literally, I had such a shock surge of energy back in 2012. And there was some kind of fire I lit up under my ass. I'm not going to get into it, but just the immensity and intensity of care that just shook through the core of my being. I was almost like an insomniac. I just went through so much material, like a quantum leap type of learning curve of just all diving deep into the esoterica, because I had so many inklings and not really reading into it beforehand, but then like once you get hooked, like I just dove as deep as I could, kind of thing. So it was really just kind of like that spark of interest and in that care that drove it as well, the will force, because I had a lot of stuff that I wanted to apply to my life to make it better, because I wasn't in shambles, but I felt like things could improve in a lot of domains, including health and all that stuff. And I also noticed, y'all heard, that mama bear energy, whatever, right? That's kind of like that, cosmic care, that, it's like that superhuman strength. Maybe you guys have like heard of stories where, like a baby's like trapped under some heavy appliance or even a car or something like that. And, the mother by herself is just like able to, rescue her child, because it just bleeds out so much, and there's like just explosion of energy and like adrenaline pumped up and all these hormones that drive biologically that generative principle to save the day, if you will, even though that sounds cliche a little bit. But yeah, I guess that's all I'm gonna say for have a nice day a little bit, make it great a little bit, and doing the great work within yourself that really activates that proper true care. And we wouldn't be here trying to pass on the great work, pass off, if you will, if we didn't do some proper stuff within. Law correspondence, we are all corresponding communication, as within so without as well. So the great work needs to shine from within to the outer domain, to put it simple and plain, and make a proper effects to that causal point.
For sure. And it starts, we have to lose the apathy and the fear, and especially we have to lose it. And another part of the principle of mentalism is choice. We have the choice. Morphos was right. It starts with a choice. You can choose if you want to see, like on a cloudy day, do you want to watch the clouds, or do you want to watch the small parts maybe that are blue? It's your choice, and it's like our future, our destiny to, I think, do this change, to step out of fear into love, and just drop the apathy and start caring, and make this place the jewel it was intended to be.
Anyone else with a last thought? Oh, look, we've lost someone, I think. Oh, no. That's very much.
I'd just like to just add as well to what Chris was saying. I found that I've never heard it put like that before. And I really did see in my mind that, probably 90% of the population actually don't care. And, because sometimes I get real down in the dumps of how much the psychopaths are actually, it seems like they're winning. And I think they are. Sorry to say, but it kind of gives me a sense of that there potentially is something to achieve in carrying on doing this great work, because if 90% of the population are in the state where they don't care, they're not generating anything. So if you can, it's like Star Wars, if you can get someone to care, another 10 people, and then it spreads and spreads and spreads and spreads, and then we might, with our generative care, start tipping the scales a little bit, and maybe these dark occultists Yeah, won't be so smug. That's what I was going to say.
Anyone else with a last thought?
Suffering, chaos. I think I mentioned that previously. That's how. That's unfortunately some of the only way that a lot of people are going to care.
Yeah.
Yeah, we do our part to try to give them the easy path, the path of Ma'at, instead of the path of Isfet, the path of Ma'at, moral education, to care for it through learning about it, rather than going the hard way of suffering and chaos. And yeah, learning the hard way with Isfet, that symbolism.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Anyone else? Shall I finish up? Okay. Well, I was just going to pick up a couple of things before I do the actual closing. I wanted to say something about the shadow, the dark. This thing, the shadow within us that we have to face up to is the same as is a perfect reflection of the shadow without that we're talking about. So it's about looking at both, and that is part of true care, is being able to look at the dark care, and understand the reality of what it is. Really, activating the generative principle is aligning thought, feeling, and action. That's I think really important thing to consider. And just to respond to Oscar's point about the principle of mentalism, as in the work, the universe, all is mind. I think the way that I understand this, and we can discuss this further later, or next time or whatever, is about there's two aspects to that. There's a generative aspect, and there's a regressive aspect. That's how that's what that means. Of course, everything can't just be born. Everything also has to die. So, and that all takes place within the one mind. So that's my sort of understanding of that. So we're talking about the creative aspect, when we're talking about the generative principle. Okay, so thank you all so much. I think that's been a great show, a great first live stream. Well done, we made it through. Well, hopefully, fingers crossed, through this next bit as well. So thanks to everyone here, thanks to everyone behind the scenes. You can join us on Telegram. We're having great discussions all through the week, and we'll be back next week. We'll discuss with the topic. We might move on. Probably at some point we are going to move and focus more on dark care. Maybe next week, maybe, but we'll see about that. It is true care that drives us to be here and to do our best to present our understanding of these essential topics. However, the algorithm doesn't care, so it's great if you can amplify our work very easily and help the algorithm to know what's truly important by liking, commenting, sharing this video, and subscribing to the channel. Everyone's links will be in the description below, as well as a link to the Telegram group. And we'll be back next time, next week, presumably, and hopefully with a live show, if everyone's happy with how this went. I think it went pretty well. But for now, I'm Nemo Jones, reporting for Beauty, and I'll see you next time, and we'll all see you next time on Europa Natural Law.
Yeehaw.
Yeehaw.